So, the last video I talked about my sexual assault story, and I know that it feels like I'm trying to trend story time videos again. I'm really not trying to be trending or anything, which is why I really don't want to be relevant on YouTube, judging by how many vicious fans or vicious comments you get on YouTube, all that stuff. I'd rather just do something just a little bit retro, just so I'm not riding on that YouTube train or anything. And also, these videos just give me a nice outlet or just a vent. But yeah, so between when I got sexually assaulted and when I came back to New Zealand, I think in my last story I mentioned I met two soulmates, and then after that I met this guy called Ben on Tinder. And I honestly thought at the time he looked like a skanky pirate hippie. And I remember the first time we met, he stood me up because he'd just finished work or whatever. He was supposed to meet me up, and then he stood me up, so I went to work, and then he wanted to meet me after. We met up, and he ended up trying to flirt with my friend at a bar that I took him to. And then when I noticed that, I still invited him out with some people, because apparently he knew some people from the high school days, and they vouched that he was a normal person when he clearly wasn't. And so when I noticed that he was trying to flirt with my friend, I just didn't pay heed to it, and I started talking to some other guys that approached me that night. And then when he noticed that other guys were paying attention to me, he decided to make a move. I don't know, like I said, I was in a really dark headspace at the time. I invited him to come back to my house, and he declined. And then a few years later, he said that I did anal sex with him on the first date. I definitely didn't. But I did offer for him to stay at my house because he did live far away, and he said no. And it turns out, after I read his text messages one morning, he actually rejected me so he could sleep with another girl on the same night. And then that night, that's when I lost two of my front teeth. And then he felt really bad. He was saying, I should have never seen that girl, da 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 da. And then, after that incident happened, no one even came to check if I was okay, except for one of the guys I met from a bar, and, I think he became like one of my exes. So I think I did stop talking to that guy so I could spend time with Ben, because I thought Ben was the only person that gave a shit about me. Like, he paid for my groceries. He paid for $200 worth of groceries when he knew I couldn't work that week because I was in that much pain. Like, my ex's friend I was in a trolley. He pushed the trolley out onto the road, and I hit teeth first into the pavement, because in that snap decision I had to choose between losing my eyesight or losing my teeth. I knew how hard it was going to hurt, and I was 6 times over the drinking limit, and I preferred to have my 2 front teeth snap in half. I had one tooth come out, and then I just shards on the road, and then I had another just cracked in half, and you could see 2 of them. So they just said that the person that actually did it said that he was only going to apologize to me when he saw me next, like I would want to be seen in public after that happened. And I also couldn't afford the emergency dentist as well, because I didn't have a car and I didn't have money to get a bus. I now know it's going to take 11 grand to replace my dentures with implants. This was 4-5 years ago. I'm still friends with the person on Facebook. And yeah, so at the time, Ben showed remorse, and he knew I couldn't do anything because I had a fractured right elbow, and I couldn't really do anything with it at work. I could barely write, and also I didn't want to be seen in public just with the way my teeth look. Like, I mean, if you've seen my old videos, you've seen what they look like, just with like a bit of tissue in front of it, just so you don't see the whole thing. And then come to find, one morning, he gets I can't remember, 4 or 5 missed calls, and I call him out on it, and I said, "Who's that?" 7 o'clock in the morning, honestly. And he said, "Oh, it's just my boss, da 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 da." I'm like, really? I can tell you right now, I've only ever had a boss call me like 2 or 3 times, like 3 times max, and then they'll just leave it. I've never ever heard of a boss call me 4 or 5 times. Like, it's like, "Oh, we're just really short staffed." I'm like, really? You're like, I've honestly, I've worked in hospitality. I know how short staffed it can get. Really, your boss calls you 4 or 5 times? So then we both get high. I wasn't in the right headspace. I'm just going to be honest. And he fesses up to everything. He tells me that this is his girlfriend who he hasn't seen in 2 weeks, so he could spend time with me. And the only reason he wanted to be honest with me was because he got stoned and it made him feel guilty. So then I told him to pack up all of his shit. And then I went to work. And then I just thought, maybe 3 days later, I said, "You know what, we're going to go out. I'm going to go out in my expensive $200 dress. I'm just going to forget about the guy." And unfortunately, I see him while I go out, and we're just like, he doesn't want to leave me alone, so I kind of just snap. Like, I want nothing to do with this guy. And then we just end up shouting at each other outside of this bar. And then he ends up like following me home. I think at one point I just ran away from him, or I just tried to run off or whatever, and I must have waited behind the bushes of someone's house for like an hour because I just wanted him to leave me alone. And he actually just waited for that whole hour. And then I took him back because I thought he genuinely was sorry for what he did, and come to find he really wasn't. So yeah, we made up, we had sex, and he says he wants to try again, and I'm an idiot, despite the fact I told myself I would never get someone that was a cheater. I took him back. Why? Because my headspace wasn't right at the time, and I mean, at that point I'd already like just kind of was dating multiple people at the same time, because I just didn't give a shit about myself at that point. Not justifying it, but like, I was just like, well, people don't care about me, why should I care about them? Like, that was my mentality at the time. So he says he wants to try again, and he's like, "You can keep my phone for the whole day if you want." And I did. The reason why I didn't get any messages from other girls is because he had uninstalled Tinder and Messenger out of his phone. And he said, "Whatever you do, do not look at Messenger or Tinder." And I couldn't really go on Messenger anyways, but he goes, "Do not look at my photo gallery." And that was one of the first things I did. I looked at his photo gallery and I saw half-naked girls he'd taken a picture of on Tinder. He said that he saved those pictures as a joke, like just seeing a girl with huge tits in a bikini. And then I think there was, I don't know, skip to like a few nights later, and and I, just out of curiosity, I joined Tinder again just to see if he actually meant what he said. And then I saw his profile again, and he said, "Oh, no, 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 it was a mistake, it was a mistake." It's like, no, Tinder tends to work in real time. Like, you match with someone if they're online at the time, and we both matched at the same time. And yeah, so he's just like, "Oh, you can trust me, you can trust me." And I was like, "Swear on your grandmother's, oh, swear on your mother's grave." And he goes, "I swear on my mother's grave." His mum was alive, so, I don't think I don't, like, I don't think he saw anything in that. I know one of his grandparents died, and I told them, I was like, "Swear on your grandmother's grave or grandfather's grave," and he swore, despite that stuff. He really just didn't give a shit about anything or anyone. So yeah, he, this is, like, it's insane how much of a sociopath this guy really is. So yeah, I just gave him the benefit of the doubt, because he is a really, really good liar. Like, I honestly wouldn't get anyone to trust him. I wouldn't even let his family go near him, to be honest. He's up there. Like, he's a really, like, could be a double agent or a freaking lawyer in his next life. He just can't hold down a job. If he wasn't spending his life pissing it away on spending money on girls and then asking for their money back, like, he actually could have done something with his life with that sort of gift. But I digress. So yeah, he's sleeping in my bed again, and out of curiosity, I look through his phone. Everything he told me not to look at, I look at. I still didn't believe that he took photos of screenshots of half-naked girls on Tinder as a joke. So I tried to find any text messages that were incriminating. Now, the messages he sent to girls weren't incriminating. The messages he sent to his friend, however, were. He gave us nicknames for all the girls. Like, eventually I found a way to install his Tinder, and the same message he sent me, he's like, "Oh wow, you're beautiful, you're like delete Tinder worthy." He messaged that to another girl, and apparently when he said he was working, he went to go see her, and they were just friends. And then the night we got into a fight, and I told him to get the F out. He said his friend was going to pick him up. Turns out it was another girl, his friends with benefits or whatever, coming to pick him up from my house. Yeah. So, and then I don't even know if the first time we met or the second time we met, it was actually his friend that came to pick him up, or if it was another girl. Like, I'll never know. But yeah. So I find that he's messaging 13 other girls, not only his ex-girlfriend, but also 13 other girls on Tinder. And then I find messages between him and his best friend giving us all nicknames. Like, one girl's called Ching Chong. He called, like, I had a meth mouth because I cracked my teeth open. He was calling all of us sluts. And his friend Josh, or Joshi Mitsu, was the one that told him to delete his Tinder, uninstall it or delete his Tinder account and delete all of his messages before he gave his phone to me. But yeah, and then what else did I find? So I was like pissed, and I had a really shitty $50 phone, so I couldn't take screenshots or anything with it. And I couldn't even send those messages to myself, because he had no credit. But the only thing I couldn't log into was his messenger. So when he woke up and I confronted him about all this stuff, he's like, "No, I'm sleepy. Can I go to bed? I'm sleepy." And then I just didn't have any respect for myself, so I let him sleep, and I just let it boil. Like, I was hoping if he said he was going to sleep long enough, I would just get angry and snap and tell him to get him out of my house. But, like, I was scared that I might get kicked out if I caused a scene. I was scared that, like, maybe he would do something worse. Like, so I just sit there and let it boil. And I was just thinking of ways to just get back at him. And I definitely got back at him. So yeah, he, what was it? He wakes up again, and I said, "You can take your stuff out of my house." And he's like, why? I'm like, oh no, everything's fine. I just want you to get out of my house. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And this is the same nut job that said that he loved me 3 days after we'd known each other. Like, this guy is a true sociopath. And and then as soon as he left, everything he left in my house, I threw out. His underwear, I put it all over Facebook stories, Snapchat stories, Instagram, every sort of story you could think of. I messaged all of his girls, and I messaged his ex-girlfriend too, and I think her name was Katrina. I also messaged his other ex-girlfriend who he said used him for his money, and then just left. And like, just one day he came back home and all of his stuff was gone, like his 4-year relationship. Turns out that he was physically abusive towards her and mentally abusive towards her as well, and that's why she had to leave. She had her own job, so she told me that when he said that, when he said she was using him for money, that was all lies. And what else was there? I cannot remember. But like, I got threats from one of his like side chicks, or one of his friends that he met from his dating site, to back off and leave me alone, because he was suicidal when he knew what had happened to me with my ex-boss, and he was the one that was depressed. Like, he knew everything that had happened before we met, and I should feel bad for him. And she blocked me before I could even defend myself. So, whatever. And then his friends started ganging up on me. I did not feel bad for anything I did, because, like, I just thought he was a piece of shit for trying to take advantage of me when I really had nothing else going for me at the time. And then he had the gall to turn around. So, like, remember when I said he paid $200 for my groceries? He then turned around and said, by the way, since we're not together anymore, can I have my $200 back? And I was like, no, like, I did not sign up to be one of your side chicks. You told me to stop seeing other people so that we could exclusively date, only for you to turn around and just stab me in the back. So no, I don't owe you anything. You owe me something for sure. Like, I welcomed you into my home, and I definitely gave you food when I had no money, so you definitely owe me something. But yeah, so it got so bad, like, I told everybody what had happened. I told all of his high school friends, and even they were shocked at how much of a big piece of shit he was, because apparently he stood up for people that got bullied, or I can't remember, or like he was the one that got bullied. I can't remember which way it was, but they were actually really shocked when I told them all this stuff. And that just told me he truly was a sociopath. But yeah, it got so bad that he ended up moving to China, and I saw that he had another girlfriend as well, and I thought I'd message her out of the blue. And then, like, I showed her the Reddit story that I wrote about him, and then he was trying to discredit it by just throwing in more lies in the comments, like saying I did anal with him on the first date. And it's like, well, I definitely know you blew me off for another girl, and so I know that there was no way I was the one that put out. I think you're confusing me with 13 of the other girls you were seeing. It definitely wasn't me. And yeah, and I think he's just tried to spam all of my YouTube comments, which is also why I just wanted to lay low for a while and not do YouTube. But that was my crazy story from Melbourne back in 2016 as well. Maybe a few months after the sexual assault happened. But yeah, that is my story. Moral of the story is, please do not use anyone as a rebound, and please just, if anything traumatic happens to you, like a breakup or whatever, please use that time to heal. Do not use that time to find another shitty person after another shitty person after another shitty, but don't do what I do, okay? Or don't do what I did. And yeah, I'm hoping that this I mean, there could be some decent people out there, but this has made me just very cynical of what kind of people are out there and what kind of people will swear up and down that they're not doing this stuff when they truly are. Like, this guy is like social repose and destery combined, just without the messaging underage minors, as far as I know of. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that because I just wanted to let the whole world know that he's a piece of shit. And yeah, see you later.